Hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion. I'm Matt Navarre. I've been a FileMaker developer so long that if it was a person, it could have grandchildren. That was supposed to be funny. My jokes are going to go like that the whole time. At 35, technically, you can have grandchildren. That's what I was trying to say. So the panel discussion is going to be kind of largely around Claire Studio feature things. And Robert Holsey needs no introduction because everyone's just listened to him a lot. Chris Moyer and Fabrice, we're talking about, let's have you guys briefly introduce yourselves, and then we'll dive into the questions.
My name is Chris Moyer. I actually got started working with FileMaker as a sales engineer in Chicago back in 1991. And so I did that for 3.5 years and then started making databases, and I haven't stopped.
I'm Fabrice Norman, and I started using FileMaker Pro after you, which is quite rare. Actually, it was version 2, but and well, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm an old one, huh? Yeah, that mic's not nearly as loud.
Okay, but well, so my name is Fabrice Norman. Okay. I live in Belgium and France, depending on dates. That's it.
So let's see. Well, yeah, we're just going to have questions. If there's questions you guys want to throw in as we go, I think that's probably okay. Otherwise, we're going to have plenty of time at the end. And I've got 5 questions I prepared and some other ones if we run out. So what is the top area? So not a specific feature of the platform, but a top area that you think Claire should be focusing on, like marketing, tech, developing new customers, finding new developers, things like that. And then what order should they happen in? I think this is probably you two, and then Robert will tell you how wrong you are.
I like how Fabrice gives me the hot potato here to focus on. So to me, I think probably, and this is something I've been saying for a while, I think Claire's could work on their communication game. There's been some conversation here about products coming out with not release notes, or documentation isn't really there. There's been some wondering about what the future holds, and so I think a lot more proactive communication would be helpful to get everybody on the same page, so people aren't scratching their heads in wonder and concern and wondering what's going to happen next. Marketing has been a problem for a while, I'm not really sure what to say about that, except I think there are a lot of sort of viral strategies that could be used to do marketing and have marketing be done for you. And so, there are a ton of ISPs, independent IT shops, that service customers that are the same customers that FileMaker appeals to. And I think, Claris has had a great resource in someone like Andy Lecates or others. Robert could certainly do this and go out and sit on the podcast for these things and start talking about FileMaker and raising awareness among the people who advise the customers that we're looking for to say, oh, if you need to create your own database to do something, you should listen to this podcast or something like that. So, video has a long shelf life on the internet. And so the more recorded interviews and presentations that could be done and just out there and have that shelf life, I think would be a huge benefit. And so I guess more guerrilla marketing tactics would be something I'd like to see.
And you should set, you're going to be off camera unless we're like right here.
Right. So I'll make a Frenchman answer. I make a Frenchman answer. There's a French cheese, of which baseline is le port salut c'est écrit dessus, which means le port salut, which is the name of the cheese, it's written on it. And I would say that probably what Claris needs to work on is clarity, and that applies both to the, I would say, the component of the platform. I asked the question earlier, and we really have to make it clear, I think, where things fit on that landscape. And also, it's a matter of licensing policy. As an entrepreneur, I have to say, although it has it is already much clearer than it was a few years ago. I'm tired of explaining the licensing model to customers and including to my teammates. So I think those two components are really important. And the third thing, which is also somehow linked to clarity, is um, I think I'm sorry, I don't want to be like, I think it's only constructive criticism, of course, but um, everything under claris.com seems not so attractive. And I'm thinking about, for instance, the community thing. I know many of us just go there for very rarely because it's not pleasant to use and it's not really welcoming, and the atmosphere there is not what it used to be, I think.
Is there like another website that you think does that much better?
Uh, well, I think in terms of community, if I think of someone discovering the platform, I mean, if I test the platform myself, one of the first thing I do is explore the community, right? It's a very important thing to know that you're going to be backed up by some people with experience and so on, and community is one of the components, I think, on the website, on the web activities of Claris, that has gotten a bit too heavy, but it's even difficult to follow your own questions. So, so I think that there's a lot of improvement that could be done there.
Robert, I'm really curious to hear your priorities.
Well, I don't know that we're going to get the competitive nature you wanted for this first question.
No, we're really not.
We wholeheartedly agree. I mean, our focus over the last couple of years, and we touched on it earlier, is getting engineering to a place where we've been able to ship every few weeks, and we're able to actually take feedback from you all and iterate. And I've been product now for about 10 years. When I started, we had an 18-month release cycle. And so seeing that is incredibly encouraging and awesome and exciting. But at the same time, we could we could cure cancer in the product, but if no one knows about it, what does it matter? And so we're actively looking at what are the things that we can do to help get across our thinking, our direction, why we're doing the things that we're doing. Part of my presentation this morning, where I broke down the phase, that was a direct reaction to a lot of the comments we were getting. Was like, well, you built Studio. This is just a web form. Why are you doing that? And I don't think we've done a good enough job explaining our logic and how we've been rolling that out. So I can't wait to disagree with you guys, but we're not there yet.
Could I add one thing? So part of the Claris website is a new feature request section, and people can say, I would like it to see it boil an egg or whatever the feature is, and then people can upvote that or downvote it. And I would love to, we talked about the roadmap earlier in a previous session, not on this video, and the idea that you're responding to feedback and then that makes it onto the roadmap somehow, that's an opaque process to me, and I'm sure everyone in here, and so it would be, I can't help but wonder if there's some sampling bias in there, and maybe you're hearing from squeaky wheels who are overriding other legitimate requests from the community, and I would love to see something similar to the feature request thing, where maybe you even put a slate of 50 features out there, and we can all go Reddit on it and start upvoting things that we like, and possibly even commenting on it, saying, I have this use case, and really adding some flesh to the bones of this, sort of dry list of features, and talk about, how big an impact one feature might have versus another.
No, that's a great point. And I've gotten the question around the ideas ranking, and it's like, well, why don't you just sort it by top priority and hit that? That's your answer of what you should be building. And what we find is a lot of times it's like, it's been a little while now, but when I looked at it somewhat recently, I guess, a lot of the top requests are things about helping you guys do repetitive tasks more efficiently. And so when we think about those things, it's like, all right, well, how do we not go after that solution? How do we try to up-level it and go, that's not a problem you should be dealing with? And that's hard for us to communicate in that form that we have today. But when I you guys were just in here for the questions that I was getting, and there's a lot of things that are just like, yeah, those are table stakes. Like, we know that we need to communicate better, that those are things that they might not be being worked on right now, but we know that we need to get to them. And Brad and I were just having that conversation about like, how can we get to that level of transparency? Don't know the answer to that standing here right today, but totally hear that that is something that you all need, because otherwise, and we're seeing this, across the board, if we're not giving those kinds of bits of information, people have to fill in the gaps. And, it's human nature to assume in a lot of cases the worst. And
Yeah.
so we want to make sure that, you have the information that you need and that we're being clear and that it gives you an opportunity to the point of sort of adding flesh to the bones of, if we're way off on something, being able to call that out and talk to us about it and help us better understand those use cases that you're trying to solve for.
This discussion kind of makes me think of the adage. I don't think I'm going to word it right, but if Henry Ford asked everyone in the world what they wanted at the time, it would have been a faster horse, and not to invent something completely new that changed everything. And so, just driving things from a to-do list or from like the existing features and having everybody put it on that, maybe not really what is needed for the platform. I think it needs risk and vision and.
I mean, absolutely. Like, there was no top feature request for Studio, right? But there was in there a bunch of problems that we looked at and said, okay, yeah, we could try to solve them the way that they're being asked for in the forums, but would that really solve it for the larger audience? Would that really give us the future that we believe we need? And the answer was no. So we're taking those risks, and they're well-educated, risks, as far as we've talked to lots of you and we understand the problem set. But it's hard to make that connection without that additional context.
So this is kind of a good segue into more technical stuff, right? So imagine that you get to be the one person who gets to control every single thing about what happens in the product for the next 2 years. You almost are. And you get 10 things. Actually, no, you get 3 things. No, you get 1. You get 1 thing. What would that one thing be? What would that one killer feature that would be just something you'd hit really hard?
Killer feature. I don't know. I think it would be an area like. Obviously, we're in a phase where. Sorry, I'm not going to reply to your question. So
I might.
But I'm going to reply to another one. So I think we're in a phase where obviously we are tending to the end of something and new beginnings, and that's very exciting. If you do so, you need to. I mean, it's in the Claris culture, I think, to be extremely conservative as per backward compatibility, not only for the product but also for its users. Let's say, okay. I had a chat one day. I remember. I think it was with John Sindler, and we are trying to find a feature that was removed from the FileMaker product.
The today function.
The
the one that when you had to open the database and it recalculated the entire thing.
Exactly.
That one.
The today function.
That's it.
And the other one was the patterns on the layout objects, right?
Oh, yeah.
Apart from that,
That's right.
everything is. I mean, if
Yeah.
I launch FileMaker now, except that the icon has changed, I can work exactly the way I could work in FileMaker 2.1. I mean, of course, there are more features and so on, but
There's 2 new layout parts.
everything is in place. Everything. At a certain point, I think you need to, to rethink things, and yes, it doesn't matter if old people like me or Egbert, who doesn't hear it, needs me to talk louder, to speak louder. It doesn't matter if we're a little bit lost. If it can attract some, developers, young developers with JavaScript skills and so on, and we would understand that, calculated field is not a data type. It's just a way to calculate, to define a text field or a number field. We can adapt to those changes, because those were design patterns that were made like 30 years ago. I mean, can someone raise your hand, people using the @ sign as a wildcard in your fines. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, just a reminder, email has become popular in 1995, right? This wildcard pre-existed, so they could not remove it because they considered that people would use that sign as a wildcard. So up to now, 2022, you cannot easily search an email field, right?
Yeah.
So at a certain point, you've
Well, you
got
can change it to Unicode, so
so yes, then it's
other problems.
yes, it's case sensitive then. Anyway, but okay, at certain point you've got to cut some roots. It's fine, and I think this would be a good time to consider things, and that goes also with, I think, on the other side, a conversation about what is so strong, what is so extraordinary in the platform we use and cherish. Because there are some concepts that are 30-year-old and that are still amazing. I'm just out of the top of my head, like the notion of context, notion of manipulating the font set, like perform a find and find records that are interesting and then just omit one just because you don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
No other platform would propose that. It's a super cool feature. It's so, I mean, it's brilliant, right? So I think, Clarice, you should talk to us. What is making the platform so strong? And for the rest, there are things that can be, removed or updated with more vigor.
Vigor. A good politician, when asked a question, always answers some of the question. Good job.
Well done. So I've been spending, and Heidi Porter and I have both been spending a lot of time looking at resiliency and reliability and cybersecurity issues for like the last couple of years. We spend time out at DEF CON, which is the hacker conference in Las Vegas.
Def with an F.
Def with an F, yes. And so, ransomware is a lot more common these days. And if you bring a server down, FileMaker doesn't have great recoverability features. So if my last backup was at 10 a.m. this morning and after lunch it goes down, I have 3 hours worth of data modifications to reconstruct. And there are other database systems that have a roll forward feature. So if we could, and I think transactions might be a great initial step for this, but if we could start logging every edit to the system that was outside of FileMaker. So if the database itself got encrypted, I roll back to a backup, and then I can say, okay, starting at 10:01, roll forward to 1 o'clock, and I could restore the database as it was when it went down. That would be fantastic. So to me, I think that would be, because recovering from a crash is a painful experience these days. And there are other database systems where it's much less painful. And I think it's much more likely these days to suffer a ransomware attack or some sort of malware on your network where it's likely to have something like this happen. So I would love to see FileMaker have some, it's not a sexy feature, it's not a cool feature, but as FileMaker becomes bigger and more capable, and it's not uncommon to have million-plus record sizes, recovering from, an hours-old crash is really painful these days and can take a long time, especially if you have a lot of indexes. So anything that could sort of make that recoverability better, I think would be a huge feature.
That seems like it would be really like a Draco thing, right? But I think that features like that maybe would make more sense in Clara Studio, where actually they're going to be very popular because you know a little bit about Mongo, and that would have a ton of features there, right?
Yeah, I'm actually, so, years ago, Fabrice came up with an awesome audit logging technique, and I tested that against this idea of doing transactions and reverting the transaction, and the audit logging is too fast. It logs the change, and then if you say revert, it's like, too bad, I've already logged it. And so I've started modifying his technique to withstand, I'm writing everything into a global field, and then when I commit, then it says, okay, now you can log it. And I love the idea of taking everything that happened and sending it off to Mongo, and Mongo can be sort of the lifeboat for all these transactions. And so if FileMaker goes down, we can say, okay, go talk to Mongo and pull all those transactions back.
Rebut?
Yeah, I guess I still don't know if it'll be a direct rebut, but the like if I have a magic wand, it's recapturing where so many of us started, right? Where you started with FileMaker and I talked about it earlier, you get to that aha moment quickly. And sort of touching what you were saying, Fabrice, about like, as we've got new eager folks coming out of college or out of high school that are trying to figure out their career, I want them to be able to pick up the Claris platform and fall in love with it the way that we did. And right now we've got a steep learning curve and legacy, archaic, interesting habits that we've built up over 35 years that are very confusing to someone new. And part of that has been part of the studio strategy, right? That gives us an opportunity to sort of recapture that magic while not, trying to disrupt too much the existing solutions. As you were saying that, Fabrice, I was thinking about like, why are we like that as far as not changing some of those things and not removing features? And I think part of it is when we went through the 7 conversion and how painful that was for a lot of us. For those that don't know, I started my career in support, joining the support team to help, get you guys through that.
How did
that
you stay
process.
after that? Wow.
I somehow fell in love during that, because I think partly because of the passion that I saw from the community.
Yeah, and
right?
7 was great too. I mean, it had so many real
and
things.
So it gave me a very early exposure to just the amazing variety of things that the platform has solved for. But the conversations are, that I have every DevCon with people and their background, and it's always so fascinating. And, we've heard how that's drying up and you're not seeing those new people coming in. And I want to see more of those stories. So again, that's not exactly a feature, but more, as Fabrice was saying, sort of an area of focus. And then I think once we do that and we're able to grow, that then funds the things that you're talking about, Chris.
When I was originally kind of coming up with these questions, I was thinking about trying to make it more Claris Studio versus other platforms, which was, I think, just too harsh maybe. But with the power of Mongo at the back end, like one of the things I'm curious about is other ways to connect to it, right? I know you've done a lot of research on this. You've got a lot of stuff on Mongo. That's why I invited you guys to the panel. There's already ways you can connect the FileMaker solution to Mongo at the back end without waiting for the cool things to happen with Claris Studio. And I'm wondering, like, what of those ways, what ways would actually be really meaningful now, and what ways might still even be meaningful after Claris Studio, but before it's actually fully done? And would that even maybe lead? This is a big question. Like, could it even lead you off of the platform? Maybe. You and I have talked about this, and I loved the conversation we've had about it. So let it go.
What did we drink with that? Because I don't remember.
It was in Rome, so probably.
No, MongoDB as a backend is certainly not a reason to consider leaving the platform. On the contrary. As far as I understand it now, MongoDB is among the NoSQL DBs has this ability to be very similar to MySQL in terms of ODBC connectors and so on. So people don't feel lost. They can talk to this NoSQL database just like if it was a MySQL database. And I guess probably this is one of the reason why you chose it. Right? I understand the idea. Everyone can figure out what the record is, what the column is. That's, but somehow that's not the real benefit of NoSQL. To be honest, what you said was it yesterday, this morning. I'm not jet lagged, but you are. But I'm jet lagged for you. Was that you at Studio would be completely agnostic to the database storage, and this is very important thing. So I think the Mongo thing is. I even wonder if that word should have been published somehow, because I think it's not. I mean, what you're doing has nothing to do with Mongo itself, right? I mean, Mongo has a...
Yeah, but what ways would you connect like a current solution now to Mongo completely separate from what's coming? I guess is kind of what I want to know.
Right. Well, Mongo, you can actually connect to Mongo just with a MySQL driver. So you can use it as, and you showcased it very nicely in Berlin. You can just use it as an ESS data source.
Which doesn't really at all get to the power of it, I think.
No, exactly. Well, if you ask me, I think from the FileMaker standpoint is the CouchDB approach, which is 100% HTTP and so on, is more relevant because we do lots of things with insert from URL and some. But Mongo is fine. I mean, but from FileMaker, the way to connect is indeed by using ODBC, and that's it. What we're missing on the FileMaker side to really work nicely with NoSQL databases is a real JSON engine. Functions are slow. They're not. We don't have enough. So we have to use. Well, basically, what we're missing in FileMaker is the JavaScript engine, right? I mean, we have one in the web viewer. Let me advertise for a session that Romain is going to present tomorrow. Sometime, I don't know, it has been moved. That's very interesting in terms of using the JavaScript engine within the web viewer, but it's still limited to the web viewer, so it means it's not the server side compatible. It's not, well, it's still dependent on the UI. But so if you work with NoSQL, which is a document database, I mean, basically you're manipulating JSON, right? Is everyone familiar with this idea? Well, basically we need more power on the JSON.
I think you answered my earlier question of the one thing you would do, right? This is like the thing that you think is the most important for the platform, maybe? Like a direct JavaScript engine and better JSON controls to a more powerful database backend? Yes, no?
Yeah, I think JavaScript engine, just pure native, like just perform JavaScript. Okay, then you can hire right from the, and honestly, I think implementing a JavaScript engine nowadays is doable, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I think from that, you don't have to tell the guy, I mean, what the layout is, what the script is. No, just perform JavaScript and do your stuff. And that would make the platform much more effective.
Build on that real quick. Yeah, something I think I forgot to mention again today when we were talking about the new low-code language we're building for Studio. We've already built proof of concepts and been playing with then extending that even further, just integrating JavaScript directly into that. So not just having your low-code language, but interspersed with that calling JavaScript functions. And then taking that full circle, it's not just about Studio, and it's about the whole platform. And so looking at doing that also inside of Pro as well. So yeah, we totally hear that as a need and just the power that it unlocks.
Okay, so it's not even a need. No, it's
not a need.
No, we got it.
For a little longer.
So I think once ESS came along and FileMaker gained the ability to attach to MySQL, all of a sudden we had access to all these website backends and e-commerce systems and stuff like that. And you can jump onto just about any e-commerce system and import your completed orders. It made a huge difference to FileMaker. And so my feeling with Mongo is the same way. So there's this whole sort of other, it's not even the other half, but there's other giant population of NoSQL databases that now we have, we sort of have access to. And we can use the MySQL driver to access regular MongoDB, and there's a beta of the Mongo API out there right now. Doesn't seem terribly fast when executed from FileMaker, but there are different ways to connect to it. So to me, it's just all these other systems, and they could be IoT logs or who knows what, stock tickers, high volume transaction databases that we might want to take some highlights of or do summaries of in FileMaker, and it'd be nice to access these sort of, I don't know if I'd call them data lakes, but some of them probably are. But to access some really high population tables and glean some intelligence from them, and then be able to dashboard that kind of content inside of FileMaker. So getting access to that, I think, could be huge for executive information systems and things like that.
So that sounded like a second feature request there that. I think we only gave him one, but we'll slip this one in.
Well, how about
what other ways would you connect to?
FileMaker Pro connect to?
But would it cause you to leave the platform, or is it more just an
it wouldn't cause me
extension?
to leave the platform.
Okay, good.
I would.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I don't think we've done a good enough job talking about sort of how we see FileMaker as that hub function. We've seen huge success with it, and for those that excel with ESS or ODBC and OData, like the stuff that you guys are pulled off and pulling data together has been incredible, and we're trying to make that even easier now with getting Connect in the fold. But like, that's where we see FileMaker really being in its sweet spot, is being that hub function in an organization and servicing those insights. And I think we've touched on it, like when I talked earlier about sort of the phase 2 when we were kind of anchoring around a use case. But it's clear that we haven't done enough to really talk about how we see that more generally, how the Claris platform fits into these organizations. So.
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll think. God, last
Just
point.
a very small quick word about the connectivity from the old FileMaker platform. Yeah, we've been talking about ODBC. I know people tend to use ESS, which is, and I like to remind that this is not the only way to use ODBC with FileMaker. You can import record or execute SQL, which are much more powerful and faster and so on. If you don't need those data live on your layout, these are the way to go. And for instance, a very old feature that was never updated is the execute SQL. Actually, it was updated, now it's server compatible. But the fact that you cannot get the result of what you're doing is just by itself a huge limitation, right? So the only way to read an external database is, through ODBC, is to import records, which involves a lot of course, latency, because you've got to create those records, indexing them, and so on. So first, just execute SQL, which allows you to write, insert, do anything, including in your own FileMaker file, if it's ODBC data source. And just getting the result of that, even as a string, would be, just a very small update to a very old feature, and that would be very helpful.
So I'm going to ask the last question, then we'll open it up because we're coming down on time. Do you have one comment?
Real quick question.
Yes.
I was asking a question. It sparked modification on the, you get that one feature. What is something that we've implemented that got you 80% of the way there that we kind of never finished that drives you crazy? You kind of just touched on one, and what's the top one?
The totally phenomenal charting feature.
Truly, I think
Another joke no one got.
I think that there should be one guy at Claris responsible for that. Like, just doing, going through the developers and on both sides and asking what is the little thing that is missing. I know that the technology is old and so on, and some stuff that looks really small are not. In fact, I know that. But for some of them, I'm sure there are so many small things that can change our lives and make the community happy.
Do you have one, Chris?
This is not an application.
I think charting has been a sore spot for eons, and there are so many great charting engines out there that seems like a small thing to be able to snap in, like a D3 or something like that, that it's kind of a shame that charting is just sitting there like a wart.
The one small thing that I would change is to be really bold and do big things and take huge risks and stop messing around, which is not a small thing. So a lot of us, I certainly wear it as a badge of honor to have been doing this for such a long time. All of us have been doing this a really long time. And I also really think it doesn't matter at all, because what really matters is what did we do last? What did we do last week, last year? And what I really want to know is, from each of you, what are you really excited about now? After all the time you've done, what's exciting for next year?
Should I start?
You go ahead, unless you don't have one.
So I was sort of tongue-in-cheek referring to Robert as Sandbagger Holsey earlier in the year because he showed this very stripped-down studio functionality, and then just out of the clear blue sky is like, oh, and here's Kanban boards and hubs and all these other view types and stuff like that. And it kind of spoiled me, at least, thinking, wow, we're going to be making some quantum leaps here. And then the progress since then has been very incremental. So again, back to the communication issue, if you're going to be in sort of a refining phase, it'd be nice to sort of don't expect any big ones for a while. We're going to be fine-tuning this one, and then we'll get some big rocks in the jar down the road.
But what are you excited about?
I'm excited about the potential of Studio. I think Studio is going to be awesome. I don't think it's there yet, but I'm stoked for it.
That's actually number one on my list too, for sure. That I'm very, very excited about where it's going to be.
Well, in the coming year, I think the most exciting thing for me as a person professionally is to meet the people again. I mean,
Oh yeah,
I know it can be
that's
like
true.
it's stupid, but just that. I mean, after the 3 years we've just spent, this is the most exciting by far. So then, when it comes to the platform and the professional projects. Yeah, well, honestly, I'm really curious about where you're going with Studio. This is, and I'm seeing a real chance, the real chance. I mean, the name change also of the FileMaker becoming Claris, and
Mm-hmm.
I really think there is a. I've been advocating for the name change for a while. Um, uh, it's it shouldn't be a missed opportunity. I'm begging that if you're changing the the extension and the name and so on,
Mm-hmm.
do not hesitate to push the change a little further. Right.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, but I'll type in that one small thing. In the, can you, what? Sure. Are you excited about something?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm most excited about the freemium. I can't wait for
Premium.
that to happen.
How did we forget that?
Oh, okay. I didn't miss a point somewhere. We can
No, that's great.
Yeah, really. I would love to go to the Claris website and just start like a sandbox from there. Like you can, for instance, at neo4j.com, actually you can just spin up a database like in 5 minutes. Actually, Fabrice is doing it. FM Cloud, you can just spin up a hosting server. There's a nice chatbot, and like in 5 or 10 minutes, you have a hosting server. I would love that, so that I can like talk to students, talk to people who are new to the platform. They will start building something, and then you have them. And the moment they want to share, okay, then you go to a paid model. I'm excited about that.
I can tell.
You
better
stole
say
mine,
Studio.
so I'm kind of upset. It really is, though. I mean, it's yeah, I'm working on this project, Studio and the Claris platform as a whole for the last year. Obviously, I'm really excited to. I'm really close to it, and getting it into more people's hands and having new people come into the platform, and by extension, the news stories of that aha moment is what I'm really excited about. I've talked to so many of you, and I've heard, what that flip, that switch was for you. You were doing something else, and you realized, oh my God, I can make a career out of this. And now I've been doing it for 20 years, and I'm still so passionate about it. Those news stories are what I'm really looking forward to. So we can still be friends, but.
Chris, I think I'm going to change my answer. I don't agree with you anymore. What I'm most excited about is kind of the area that I'm taking my career now, which is training. And the thing that I changed my career to that, away from development, because I really see that there's going to be need to train people in Claris Studio and all the other new things coming out. Because look at all the confusion we all have of what's going to be happening in the platform. And I think for me, that's what I want to do to help with that, is to train people. So that's definitely my exciting thing. So we've got a few minutes left. What are you excited about? Who's got something other than Enzo that they're really excited about the platform? Yes, bring the mic. What?
Also Go. Those two things are.
So you're excited about
Yeah, okay.
Go?
Yeah, I'm excited about the microphone. WebDirect and
WebDirect.
Go are
WebDirect
two
and Go.
awesome features. Really extend what you can do with FileMaker.
So, and you're being serious though.
Yeah, I am.
No, I'm kidding. I love them too. I love them too, but I don't see the kind of engineering money being spent on them.
So this is a question that's come up a whole bunch, and I think I mentioned it earlier, but we're not looking at advancing specifically Studio or Connect or Pro. We're looking at what are the problems that are sitting in front of you. What are the challenges that you're trying to overcome? And when we're looking at the solutions, we're going to look at, sometimes that makes sense to be in Studio. Sometimes it makes sense to be in Go or WebDirect, right? So don't think of it as, oh, we've just put all of our energy on Studio. That, yeah, there's a lot going on there. We're standing up new technologies, but So we've got a dedicated team that's doing a lot. You've seen enhancements and bug fixes at a rate that we've never seen before. We've increased the number of users that can connect to WebDirect. You know, in the future, you know, as we continue to build out Studio, there's going to be more and more use cases where you look at it and go, oh, yeah, it makes more sense to do it in Studio. But we're really looking at this from a, what is the best tool for the job? How do we put that tool into your hands? And that's where we're going to put our investments.
Awesome. Who else is excited about something?
Yeah, I just would like to say that I'm always excited to have new people in the community, and I'd love to see some ways where like we can all champion that as a community to get more new people. Like I was very sad to see 42U close down in Silicon Valley. That was not only just the friendships that I established there, but the fact that it had such an impact for us as a company, and I imagine even for other people. But of the friendships that I had there at 42, and the young people that were there, not that, you know, it's just young people or whatever. There's older people that go through there and they have a change of life, you know, I want to do something else or whatever. But the fact that we all landed into this, you know, platform, and then we all came about it like musicians, artists, creative people, and it's like, wow, I can do this. And then all of a sudden, like Robert, you said, right? Like I can make a living out of this. That's even more exciting, you know. Like all of a sudden, it's like I can say goodbye to this other job and have all this freedom. But I think on some level, the platform has these idiosyncrasies that needs to get in line with the modern world. And one of them is code management, really, because that will attract the young people of tomorrow. Like that's the one thing that I remember Alina and Brendan and Brandon and Max felt. It's like, where's the GitHub? Where's like, how do I check in my code? Like, how do, you know, like that is like my one critical ask, is that to be better code management. I think in Claris Connect, you have the ability to roll back and stuff like that, right? But still not fully managed or pointing the finger at like, hey, Fabrice, you made this change, you know, or you didn't, whatever. But what I'm saying is more in line with the modern world of like coding, so that, you know, things are kind of, you know, more attracting the people who know what that stuff is. And
yeah, and we totally agree. I mean, and you know, I've been with the company for a while, and I remember early on when there was discussions about a new feature, and it would be something that there was a parallel to it in the real world, as it were, and there was always these like, well, we'll put our own spin on it. We're in this little bubble ecosystem, and so we want to make sure that it makes sense in sort of the FileMaker way. And at the time, you know, I was in support, and you know, it kind of made sense. But the world has just evolved so much that so much of that has now become baggage, and we recognize that totally. And it's something that, you know, a little bit of a muscle memory built up in the organization that's been doing it for a long time. But I have those conversations with them all the time. It's like, don't reinvent the wheel. You know, these terms exist for a reason. I made the comment earlier in one of the sessions about, you know, when I started. I had taken C++ in high school, and when I started learning FileMaker, the first thing that they told me was forget everything you know and start over. And then you can kind of, you know, reapply those things. But just the logic and the way that you know, we talk about things, that I think is doing us a disservice now, and we do appreciate that and understand that moving forward.
Awesome. Well, we're at time. I don't want to stand between you guys and dinner. We have a little bit of a break.
We still have like 45
going?
minutes before you have to be at dinner, so we can take a few more runs.
All right, we'll take a few. I'm curious, like, what people are really excited about, not like complaining about. So if you're excited, you can talk. Oh, well, go ahead.
Yes, it's my turn. I'm excited also. I'm excited to see how powerful we can be in our companies and create such amazing businesses. In my field, I am in the vertical market. I'm in the finance industry, fintech. And it's amazing to see that when I see our competitors, it's companies of 800, 1,000 employees, and we are 25, and we look them from eye to eyes. And that's amazing because I always say when I hire people, we are like a Formula One company. We are doing the two best cars in the world, and we will gain the world championship. So this is what is the magic with FileMaker. And I wouldn't phase a lot what Vince said about allow people work together, developer work together, and take in mind that it's not a solo developer that is working on any what you showed. We need people work together. We need developer work together. Who modify what, when, validate, process, and so on and so on. But I don't want to complain. I want to have this pleasure to move further.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna. I mean, it's very exciting to us as well. One of my favorite stories was a customer walked up to me one time and was talking about struggling inside of an organization. They had a very small team of FileMaker developers. It was like maybe 3 or 4, and they had another Oracle team that was like 25, 30 people, and they had a project coming up. And he was like, just let my team have a chance. And in 2 weeks, they had not just a prototype, but like working application. And the Oracle team was barely out of drawing on a whiteboard. And so it's like those kind of stories, how can we amplify that and take that to the next level? I'm super excited about it as well.
Yeah, that kind of thing has been definitely the most fun thing in my career. The other thing that I've really loved is companies that I've had for clients for a really, really long time, and that they've bought 5 or 6 different ERP systems to try to replace FileMaker, and they've all failed. And now they're finally going to spend money on their FileMaker application.
Yeah, they don't have any more.
No? Whoa.
Okay, from one extreme to the other. I wanted to go back to a feature that happened last year, or something that happened last year that is affecting my business very dramatically, and that's the Linux server and the possibilities we've gotten with that. I mean, I don't have a bot yet to deploy my servers, but still I'm deploying servers in about 10% of the time I needed before, with automation, and that's really exciting because you can spin up something that you can show immediately in such a short time. So this is very impressive to people. If you just go there like Fabrice and just say, "Oh, I'll put 3 things in the bot, and then here's your server," and off you go, and you can push a file up, and then you can show doing something in that file. It's already on a server. It's already available to the whole world. Isn't that really great?
It's great. And then it's there for like FileMaker solutions last for so long. Some iteration of that server will still be here in 10 years probably. What are you excited about?
So I'm super excited that finally we are seeing something that's web first and it looks sharp and modern. I mean, it's just there. Everything we've seen in Studio, that's just crystal clear and that's modern. It's what you want.
You're talking about Claris Connect, right?
No, I'm not talking about
Claris
Claris
Connect. That was also
Connect.
really funny.
I mean, I never got Claris Connect, to be quite honest. It was like too little and too late. And we have done it for one project as a pilot. And it did kind of halfway work, but not very flexible. And now, of course, we're not decommissioning it because it works.
Yes, but
So
Studio, you're really loving the
But I
cleanliness
love
of it.
Studio. It looks modern, and it has a promise. It has a roadmap ahead of it. But that's also what concerns me, because I've been working with FileMaker for 30 years as well, starting with FileMaker 2 back in the Claris days, so history repeats itself. And I know how much is in that product and how long it will probably take to translate that to something that's web first and modern. But if we could shave off some of the things we don't need, it would be great. Maybe it's not going to be lost along the way. Maybe it's just going to be finally a reason to rip off that Band-Aid. And then we never have to worry about servers or scaling or backups or running out of space or needing more CPUs. It's just on the cloud. It just adapts.
Yeah.
It scales.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on that page too. Way over here. Are you? You seem to be. keeps getting.
What I'm also very excited about is this candid conversation we are having and the confidence with which you are standing here. So you're just taking all kinds of questions, and it seems like you know what you're doing. Even.
I'm glad I'm faking it well. So
Yeah, you can fake that, you got it made.
Yeah, even if it's this iterative agile approach, but you're staying so calm because, yeah, and we feel it, and I think we it builds a lot of trust with us, and I think this meeting is
I saw his
very
Apple
important.
Watch show his pulse is like 130.
Actor
So.
Studio, you know? He works next door to Actor Studio.
All right, who else is excited? I like keeping this positive and happy. I don't know why, but it's fun for me.
I think genuinely I'm quite excited about how much listening has started to happen in the community. So that's both on the Claris side, but in the community. At a point where people felt that nothing was ever going to change, all they did was grumble.
Mm-hmm.
There was no real listening about what was underneath that. Now, clearly, one of the drivers for that is Brad coming in with a very clear and positive view on how to manage a business and turn a business round. In the way that he's done, but the fact that Robert's here and we can talk to him. So my ideas may be terrible ideas, but I know that he will at least listen to them. But I think wider across the community, what Studio and Connect have done is make other developers in the community talk about what they want. Other people are listening to that and saying, "No, I want this." So actually, there's a conversation been started because initially somebody was prepared to listen. Now, for me, that's really exciting because that means I would argue that what Robert showed today is not actually slow 12 months of progress. I've spent 11 months building a system for somebody and it's still not quite there. I think for where they've got from where they were 11 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually here for us. It's on Robert's machine, and we'd like to play with that. Thank you very much. But it is just around the corner. I think they have made massive strides, and that's part of this thing that says, tell us what you need, tell us what you want. We're not just going to tell you what we're going to build. I think that's the thing which is underpinning a lot of the development. It's a soft skill, but I'm really excited about how the listening is happening, because it means that if I have an idea, I can say the idea and somebody will listen to it. They might ignore it, but that's fine, but it will be listened to. And therefore that validates all of our experiences, which represents thousands of years worth of development experience. So.
All right, awesome. Are we needing to break for dinner here soon?
I can do a quickie.
Okay.
When I look at other platforms like AWS or and Google or such, we all have one place where we log in, and then we have extensible for any kind of features that we ask for. And you're kind of touching that area that we're going to have one place we log into, and we're going to have everything in the Claris platform. And that's really exciting for me because that will give me a whole toolbox of things I will be able to do from one login. Mm-hmm. So that's what I look forward to.
I'm thrilled I mean, that is exactly our goal. We've got right now when you come into the platform between the products and the community and 10 other places, it's very disjointed. And so having one experience and that follows you through, and you've got that toolbox, as you said, right there in front of you, I think that in and of itself is going to be a game changer for us.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up day one. Thank you three so much. And thank all of you so much too.